without further ado, I present to you Luke Belmar.
I'm Luke Belmar from Buenos Aires, Argentina. I came to the United States a little close to a decade ago, at the age of 16, and I had $200 in a suitcase, had a dream to become an entrepreneur. Fast forward a couple of years, figuring out different business opportunities, got into crypto, got into e-commerce, did extremely well, and now focused on private equity and really just leveling up my personal character, the video game character. So yeah, just enjoying life.
We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, bro.
My core objective for my only objective for today's video is that anybody who watches this front to back walks away 1% closer to exiting what I lovingly refer to as the Matrix. But I think in order to have that discussion, it's important to set the stage and understand who we're talking to. I want to talk a little bit more about your story. You mentioned coming here with little to your name, and then you skimmed over a lot of different activities.
Yeah, bro. So I worked all the peasant jobs when I got here. So my uncle was a pilot, and when you're pilots, they allow you to sneak in family members if there's open slots and things of this nature. So since my parents couldn't afford a flight, my uncle let me sit on the little flight attendant seat, which, believe it or not, they let you. And I sat there and I went to America, worked in different odd jobs trying to figure it out. Did pressure washing, basketball courts, cleaning toilets, working in kitchens, cleaning dishes, doing the whole nine. And then from that point forward, I kind of really got into the markets. I got interested in entrepreneurship and self-development. University never really cut it for me, never really made sense. It didn't make sense because the people that I was learning from, that were teaching me, they weren't doers of what they were teaching. I had a professor of international business that had never run an international business, and in fact had never been overseas. So, okay, you may be book smart, but that doesn't mean you understand reality or how life works. You need to understand culture, cultural barriers, understand norms and habits, how people interact, how people move, language, dialects, hand gestures, motions, things that offend people. These things you can't collect in a textbook. You need to learn through experience. So right now I'm really focused on just leveling up, and that's kind of been my journey throughout my entire life. In 2020, after doing really well in e-commerce, I dumped all my money into crypto. I was kind of telling you a little bit about the story. I had buddies that were investing in the market that I deemed to be more intelligent than I was. So the story goes that I'm with one of my buddies, and we're at Chipotle, and I no longer eat at Chipotle. This was when I was in my past life. Fast food is not ideal for you, but we can talk about that later. And I get my Chipotle bowl, and then my buddy's like, "Hey, can you cover me?" I'm like, you're a crypto multimillionaire. And he's like, "Yeah, I don't have money." I'm like, "What do you mean you don't have money?" He's like, "Oh, all my money's in crypto." I'm like, "Okay, sounds good." I went home and put all my money in crypto. Now, it wasn't just like, I went and gambled on my money. It was, I went home, I did my research, and as a process kind of developed, it wasn't like a gamble. I'm gambling on this dude. It was, I took the data sets and the information of other people that were playing the game, and I utilized it to my advantage. So I invested in a ton of different projects that were at a sub like $25-30 million market cap. Graph, PancakeSwap, which I ended up holding 1% of the circulating supply, which was crazy. That was super fun. I was the cake farmer. And I introduced kind of DeFi to a lot of the online digital space, and then got into NFTs, played around there, and just leveling up. But right now I'm not really in crypto. The big issue with FTX kind of made me reassess kind of how I wanted to move in this space. And I think that so many of the good people that should be innovators in the space are actually on the sidelines. So I encourage anybody that wants to get into the space, that has good intentions, get into the game, get into the space, build companies. Hey, why can't we have an exchange that actually holds customer funds? Is it that hard to build a good product, a quality product? So that's the process that I'm in right now, just building with the money that I've made and utilizing the money that I've made and reinvesting that into myself to make the video game character more powerful.
Okay. I was gonna go a completely different direction, but we have to talk about it because you brought it up. It's not a crypto video, but we have to talk about it. Listen. I've spent 24 hours. I don't know how much time I've spent with you since I got here, and you've talked about using your wealth to build a lot of different things yourself. When you talk about the corruption and the you don't like about the big exchanges, people in crypto, is that in the Luke Belmar roadmap? Like, are you going to build your own?
Time will tell.
Is it a possibility, would you say?
Everything is a possibility. All things are on the table.
Okay.
The truth is, it's possible.
Okay.
But we have to find the right people to get involved. And it's not a one-man show. It needs to take a lot of people that have good intentions to rally behind building dope building things of value, things of meaning, and being honest with each other. Like this idea of wag me, like we're all going to make it, all this fades away really, really fast when you're left holding the bag.
It's a lie.
Yeah, so you need to understand what the markets are made of. The markets are to move money from the impatient to the patient, and from the greedy to the people that are patient and sustainable. And that's been happening since the dawn of mankind in different markets that continue to innovate. But as we love cryptocurrency being decentralized, we also have a factor of Wild West kind of gunslinging scenarios where it's everybody's in it for themselves. Sure, you have technology, you can track certain things, but it's a dangerous place out there as well. So you have to be playing, understanding that the person behind a meme page, right, may not have the best intentions in mind, and that you shouldn't be relying on them to get rich. You need to develop your own strategy, your own plan, and you need to build yourself up to have the confidence to be the person whose information you listen to. You're listening to everybody else, but how much time do you spend listening to yourself? How much time do you actually have conversations with yourself about your personal development and leveling up? Most people, not often enough. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on now. I have the privilege to do that, because when you're on hustle mode, it's very hard to kind of reset your mind. But if you have enough money, right, when all you need is enough money to be able to focus on yourself full time. Like what would happen if for 8 hours a day, 7 hours a day, the focus of your day, your job was to level up? That would be amazing. That would be unbelievable. You'd be ahead of your competitors. You'd be ahead of your potential, what would you say, enemies, I would call it, or business rivals. You're going to have so many advantages on a personal level, on a business level, on an intellectual level, and you're going to see things from a bigger perspective. So if you can beat yourself and you can win and conquer self, you can conquer everything.
So what is that, when you say level up, right? Let's say, okay, I've become successful enough, I've made enough money, I have time to spend on myself. I need to know what that means to level up, right? What does that actually look like on a day-to-day basis? You're stretching a lot now. I know you eat very well, but what does that mean? Getting smarter, getting more knowledgeable, consuming more data sets?
It's becoming an intuitive individual, a person that's in tune and is present in every action that they take. Like, why do you do what you do? And when you live a conscientious life and you ask yourself, why do I eat this donut? Or why do I watch this video? And you actually start realizing that many of the things that we do are ludicrous. And if you can have that self-conversation should be the motivator to push you to get to the next level. And a lot of people's self-talk is very negative. And the reason it's negative is because they don't trust themselves. And of course you can't trust yourself. You look at yourself in the mirror and you look like you look at your bank account, you feel like shit. You go to bed, you sleep 8 hours, you wake up tired, right? You go to a job that you hate. You're in a relationship that you don't enjoy to be in. So what in your life is pushing you to be motivated and to win? No wonder your mind is like, nah, I can't trust you, because everything in your life that you're doing is self-sabotage. So what you have to do is you have to start accumulating small wins. You have to start waking up on time. You have to start eating clean. You have to start cleaning around you. You have to start exercising. You have to start listening to positive messages and not listening to all this bull music from the system. Start listening to some classical music. Start listening to some, some lo-fi. Start listening to something that has frequencies that literally elevate your spirit. But we're out here listening to all this garbage, and then we wonder, why is it that our life is so So do the simple things right. Build the foundational building blocks of your life, and then everything else can be built upon it. And I think that people always want the 10 best tips of this, the 10 best tips for the fastest whatever. This is going to be the best exercises for 2023. No, just do the fundamentals. Focus on doing the fundamentals well. And once you do the fundamentals well and you master them, and that takes years. And I'm still in the process of mastering and understanding the fundamentals myself. But once I have that foundation, that base, I'm indestructible.
Okay. Let me ask you this. What are the most obvious self-sabotage things that the average person does?
Great question, brother. Food. People eat like they don't know what they're eating, right? So I was talking with Brett yesterday. I was telling him how 50, 60 years ago, chronic illnesses in adults were about 7%. Mm-hmm. Today's over 60% of adults in America have chronic illnesses. So what happened? And that's the journey you have to go through of, is cancer normal? Is me getting a tumor normal? Is me having Alzheimer's normal? Is me having dementia normal? And you start breaking down why things actually happen, and you realize, whoa, hold up. The food that I'm eating isn't healthy. The water that I'm drinking is poisonous. The toothpaste that I have full of fluoride and alcohol is absolutely destroying my teeth and destroying my system, right? The fluoride in the water is poisonous. It's calcifying my pineal gland, and it's up my mental receivers of information. People are dumb. They're like, all day. It's believable. But they're being dumbed down by the food. That's the first one. The second one is social media. And it's ironic because people are going to be watching this on social media. If you can become a connoisseur of your feed and not allow the algorithm to control you and understand how to curate your content, that's one thing. But a lot of people are led by the algo. And the algorithm is designed for addiction. These companies, they bring in psychologists, right, to create systems and create actions that cause addiction. For example, you go on TikTok or you go on Instagram and you swipe down, right? And it does the motion like this, right? It's to mimic the casinos. When you go to the casino, luck, dopamine hit, dopamine hit, dopamine hit, dopamine hit. Dude, how many times a day? Like a lab rat.
It's classical training.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So once you understand the nature of why things happen, you begin to understand that the media around you, what you're being told, they're narratives that are curated by other people. And your goal is to figure out, why is this person saying what they're saying? Not what are they saying, but what's the intention behind what they're saying? What is the goal, the objective? And get to know the character behind the message and not trust people so much. Don't even trust us. Do your own research. When people look at my content sometimes on TikTok, I get screenshots sent to me by my team where people are like, source, trust me, bro. Bro, source, don't trust me. Do your own research. That is your source. So just because I'm giving you an opinion, it's simply an opinion on my perspective, my worldview. That's going to be a data set for you, whether you like it or not. Take it or leave it. I don't give a f***. It is what it is. So we're being poisoned through the food. We're being poisoned through our minds. We're being poisoned through the system. And then finally, I think we're being poisoned with the entire narrative of what it actually means to be a man, what it means to be a good entrepreneur, what it means to live a life of purpose. You know, I think a lot of people wake up and they don't know why they do what they do. They don't really have a purpose. No wonder you're depressed, right? You have no meaning. But you can attribute your self-meaning by doing things that are bigger than yourself. And that requires self-belief, which goes back to the small actions. So those are things that I see that are complicated, but that I believe that if people can establish them as solid pillars in their life, they could be in a better place.
I have something else I'm going to ask you, but first I'm going to look right at this camera and reinforce something he just said, which is that you're talking about dopamine, right? You get a lot more dopamine from getting advice than you do from taking steps to act on it. So I know it's a little bit ironic that we sit on camera and are like, don't listen to people, just do it. The most important you can do if you watch this video is go do one thing that we talk about in this video. Go do one thing and you're ahead of 99% of the population.
And that's the first thing. The second thing, and this is why I don't like to talk, is because when you talk, you release dopamine. regarding your goals, right? So if you say, oh, I'm going to do this, you are releasing the dopamine of that potential experience. So you get high on dreaming.
Telling people what you're going to do instead of doing it.
You get off on dreams.
We know people make careers out of it.
So your goal is to transcend that, to shut the up,
Lead by example.
and to level up.
Yeah. Okay. Now I have to ask you this too, because going on this journey, there's a number of questions that people are going to have, and the fastest way I think to get people there is to answer them straight on the head. And I bet Brett asked you this yesterday when you were talking. So what if I'm watching this video and I say, oh, but Luke, you talk about no fast food, no more Chipotle. Alex Hormozy built a $100 million business, and he talks about eating Chick-fil-A and Chipotle every day. So can I just eat like myself like be successful anyway?
Yeah, if you're trying to be Alex Hormozy. I'm not trying to be Alex Hormozy, and I think his content is great, but I'm not him. So you just have to figure out what is yours and what isn't for you, right? So I have this principle of take the meat, leave the bones. Instead of just throwing everything away because you disagree on some points, the man has massive value to offer. So in that situation, it would be more so understanding that he has a different philosophy on a different area of life, and so be it. And that's okay. So it's understanding what you want of life and figuring out who you want to emulate and what heroes you want to embody. And each one's have different habits and different outcomes in life. You just have to piece what you like, and based off of that, you curate your ideal human.
I want to go back to something you said earlier, because it's a word that you use, and I think people, every time you say it, people are like, what is he? What is a peasant? What does that really mean?
I mean, if you just look up peasant, it means a working man. So it's the working class. Now, the working class hasn't changed ever since this idea of peasant was established, which was during feudalism, right? The peasants were the working class that the feudal lords would basically let them work on the field to feed themselves, and the rest would go into storage or be sold. Basically what happens today. You go, you work, you get a little bit to feed yourself, right? And then you're in a situation where you have to give back to the king through taxes, right? So you're left with half, and then you have debt, and then you have inflation, right? So you barely meet paycheck. 70% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, or in fact are even in debt. So now you're in a situation whereby the system is attacking you 24/7. You're like, whoa, is this by design, or is this just how it's supposed to be? And then you realize that the system is created by people, and people create the system with rules. But everything that is man-made can be broken, just like hacking into a website. People hack into the rules, hack into the laws. You don't think there's lawyers out here, judges out here passing policy that is convenient for them? Think this is heaven? No, it's not. It's the real world. People cheat on a Monopoly board. You don't think they're going to cheat in the real life when there's billions and trillions of dollars on the line? What type of reality do you live in, peasant? Because you don't understand how the game is played. You are sitting where you deserve to be. So if you want to level up, you want to understand how the world works, you can't do the things that peasants do. You can't do the things that the working class does. The working class was illiterate. The working class ate unhealthy. The working class was unsanitary. The working class focused so much on working that they couldn't focus on leveling up. So I think you can transition, but it's good to have a reality check of where you currently stand. Because the first step to solving a problem is realizing that there is one. And most people aren't willing to realize that they've been fooled their entire life because they feel stupid. So Mark Twain says it's easier to lie to somebody than to convince them that they've been lied to. And that's because there's ego. So get your ego out of the way, become a student of life, and level up the video game character. It's pretty straightforward, G.
A lot of what you talk about when we speak revolves around this idea of misconception or even misunderstanding of the world around the average individual. So what do you think is the biggest, widely most accepted lie that 99% of the people watching this video believe about their own lives right now?
That your identity is found in your failure. I think a lot of people fear failure because they believe that their identity is based on their actions. So when your identity transcends who you are and what you do, you begin to have freedom to f*** up and to mess up and to treat life like a lab and experiment and test things and break things. That's how you level up. Like we're here in Breckenridge, right? If you literally go to the mountains, and I said it on my vlog, I said life is very much like snowboarding. When you're up in the mountain, it doesn't matter what type of gear, famoose, bullshit flexing you have. Either you have the experience through getting fucked up by the mountain, or you're going to learn. But the question is, what are the mountains in your life that you need to conquer, right? That you need to go down, that you need to get fucked up in order to level up. And the better you become snowboarding by practice and repetition and getting fucked up and getting hurt and getting back up and getting back up. And it's a sport of very much learning and learning and learning, constantly adapting, constantly moving. And if you can take that principle and apply it to life, then life now becomes very much like a mountain. It's very fun. You can cruise it and understand that fucking up is okay, because it's going to allow you to grow and to level up and become your fullest potential.
I want to get a little bit selfish and ask you something real. When you look at me, what do you think is my mountain? My next one?
I mean, health. I mean, I think that that's an important one, because we just did stretching exercises. You're 24 and you're not as flexible as you should be. Now, once you understand that movement is freedom, and that if you can move in your body, you become confident, right? If you can flow, the body, the movement also transcends from the physical to the spiritual and to the mental, right? So you become more, you have more dexterity through your body, and now you have more dexterity through your mind. We were talking about people don't exercise their hands or their feet. That's why they get arthritis. That's why they're always fucked up. Like, bro, this isn't normal. If you exercise your hands, if you took care of them, if you mineralized properly, you would be in a situation where you could prevent certain things from taking place. I want to live till I'm 120 years old, and I'm going to. Now, whether I do or I don't doesn't really make a difference, but that's what I'm going to do. So I'm all about lifespan longevity. The paradox is that people neglect their health to make money, to then spend that money to recover their health. The paradox is ridiculous. So it's a matrix in and of itself that you see all these successful entrepreneurs go through, all these successful people go through, when in reality, you're not successful. You have just mastered a lane, and the objective of life is to become balanced. And that's what the definition of wealth truly is, which is abundance. Wealth is abundance. It's not money. It's abundance. It's having what you need at the right time. That's all you need. If you have more, if you have excess, it can become a burden. Your goal is to flow, to move, to have what you need when you need it. And I say that as a person with a lot of money, which is maybe potentially hypocritical, but it's the truth. I don't want to be the guy sitting with a ton of material shit that's weighing me down from experiencing life. That's a matrix, again, in and of itself. Trying to catch up with the next rich guy and the next rich guy. Listen to me. There's going to be richer guys than you for the rest of your life. That's just the name of the game. And you got to be okay with that. So those are just my thoughts, G.
Let's talk about it's perfect. It's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the matrix. And more specifically, I want to talk about designed cycles. Whenever you mention this sort of cycle of damaging and then having to pay to repair your health, I started to think about other sort of mini versions of that. Why do they sell you shampoo? You condition your hair. Again, you remove the oils from your hair so you can pay to put them back in and do it over and over again. And I think that we see little microcosms of that everywhere. But I think what's really important when I create content like this is not just speaking abstract, talk in a way that if I am 19 years old, I'm at home and I love Luke Belmar's content and I want to get the fuck out of the matrix, right? How do I identify these things and what do I do realistically, right? Like what are my first steps? Where do I go?
Go do some push-ups.
Push-ups?
Yeah, go do some push-ups. If you can't do push-ups, how are you supposed to do anything else in life? Oh, yeah, the push-ups. Go do them. Go do 50 push-ups a day for 30 days. What, you think you're going to run a multi-million-dollar business? Oh, yeah, but look at all these guys. Yeah, the example is just establish discipline in some area of your life. Win in some area of your life. Win. Have a small win. You know the little monsters in your life that you shouldn't have. Those are the ones that you need to attack, and they're individual for each person. I said push-ups because for the longest time, I never wanted to do push-ups. Now every single day I do 100 push-ups. Just normal, just boom, 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 50. Wait, hold up, 50. When do I do them? Before my meal. Crank out 50 push-ups. All right, perfect. I earned my meal. Now I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk after I eat. And these are the small habits that instill discipline and that allow you to become confident. So figure out what those things are. If you say you're going to read a book, read it. If you buy the book, read it. Don't read it all the way through. Read it to explore, to understand. Motherfucker, you buy the book, you don't even open it. You read the first 3 pages as if it was some sort of college book. It's your fucking self-education and the preservation of your mind. Treat it as such. Treat it with that importance. Surround yourself with good people. People that'll guard your energy. People that will guard your soul. People that will nurture you into becoming the greatest version of yourself. There's a lot of vultures, value vultures out there, vampires of energy that will suck you dry if you allow them, succubus. And it's important to identify these people and get rid of them if they don't want to change. Because in this journey of self-development, in this journey of becoming the best version of yourself, you're going to have to leave a lot of people on the way. And that's the price that you got to pay to become the best version of yourself. So those are, I think, some things that people got to be doing to level up.
You said earlier, right? It's simple. And it's actually easy in a lot of ways, but no one does it. And I've watched you over the last, how long, 6 months, 12 months, speak things into reality. And we had a conversation last night or the night before last about designing your future. You said you don't like the word manifest anymore, but you described to me in quite great detail the process of envisioning one's future outside of the constraints of time, right? And setting goals outside of the constraints of time. So you now, at the point of life that you're in, how are you thinking about setting goals?
I no longer set goals.
What do you do?
I do. So I focus on the input and I allow, by universal law, for output to be emitted. So Newton's third law explains that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So whether it's at a planetary level or at a cellular level or at an energetic level, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So what do I understand by that? In my life is that if I do something, there will be a retribution or a echoing effect in equal proportion to that, right? The energy is transferred and it's returned in the same proportion. So if I understand that I emit X amount of energy by exercising, I will have a guaranteed body and a guaranteed result. Because I understand that by universal law, that will happen. And I have plenty of examples in the real world to prove it. That if I eat healthy, I'll extend my life. That if I exercise, I'll extend my life. That if I do breath work, I'm going to release tension and cortisol and stress, right? These are all things that we've been understanding and proving and developing into that we need to be intuitive about. And I think that it's extremely important that people begin to be intuitive of who they are and having these self-talks. It's interesting. I don't think everybody speaks to themselves.
6% of the population, they said, doesn't have an internal dialogue, actually.
And I would probably think it's more because a lot of these internal dialogues are controlled by emotions and systems and preconditioned environments that they've been set in, which is what the Matrix is. The Matrix isn't pointing fingers at a person. You're the Matrix. Like you are part of the problem.
Because we've been programmed?
Because you haven't developed your own identity. Your identity is the adoption of what other people have told you things are. And I think people need to, yeah, sure, you can embody beliefs of other people and you can take these things, but make them your own. Embody them. Nurture yourself into them. And when you nurture yourself into them, the habit of becoming healthy, the habit of exercising, the habit of leveling up no longer is a chore, but it's a privilege. And I think people need to start viewing the fact that they can be healthy, that they have legs to walk, that they have a brain to operate, that they have hands to be able to type on a keyboard and make money online as a privilege. And if you understand that it's a privilege, then you begin to appreciate it. And the thing is, people take things for granted. And the paradox of life that I found to be extremely interesting is that people put a lot of value in the things that they can replace, and they neglect the things that they cannot replace. So people put value on the Gucci belt, they put value on the car. All of these things are replaceable. But the things that they cannot replace, their health, their family, their mental state, their peace, they neglect. And it's paradoxical, and it makes no sense. So why up and learn the hard way when it makes more sense to live a life that is balanced and a life that has purpose and meaning? And I understand, go crazy, do your thing. But if you live a centered life, if you live a life of balance, a life with integrity, a life with direction, I think it could be a good life.
I'm with you, G. I think it is. And I also really like something that we touched on earlier. Is the essence of what I wanted to speak to you about today, because it's a question that I have for you personally, and that whenever we talk about the Matrix, I think a lot of people want to know. You talk about programming often, right? In a lack of identity. But I think the natural next question when we talk about the Matrix, right, and our actions, our beliefs being programmed to serve desires that are not our own, there's a lack of clarity around the they, right? Who is it that is doing the programming?
There is no they, bro. It transcends one individual. Transcends one person, bro. This is a spiritual game that is being played here at a deep level that transcends borders and ideologies. It's good versus evil, and it's that process of, well, what is good and what is evil, because there's a wide spectrum of that in and of itself. But what I will say is, going back to this idea of identity, is that think about how much of your identity isn't actually you. When you were born, you were given a nationality, you were given a name, you're given a religion, you were given a color, you're given a social security number, a passport number, your stock number, right? You're given your numerical human resource. This is your expendable character. And you were thrown off to the first programming camp, kindergarten, right? Where you were told to stand in line under the fluorescent lights. You couldn't raise your hands. You were told when you had to pee. You weren't allowed to be a child and play. And therefore, you were a failure, and you were left behind if you didn't adapt into the system really quickly. You were able to graduate into the next degree, which is very interesting. And then you go into elementary school, after your brain leaves that theta state of programming. And you start to realize that all these kids are being programmed by other people that have selfish intentions. And that you have to deal with that programming that you've gone through yourself, and understand that the origin of the content that you consume may have ulterior motives, and you have to be able to explore them and be okay with changing your philosophy and your worldview and your lane if you perceive that you have been fooled.
Do you think homeschooling is the only practice, the best practice?
100%. I think parents release the responsibility of parenthood to be in the rat race and I understand, right? People have to work, but you're leaving your children to be taught by the system. You know what the system breeds. You have a daughter. You know what type of women are coming out of the school system, of the universities. You want your daughter to be that type of woman? Yes or no? Okay, perfect. Where is she being programmed? What is she listening to? What's on her phone? All these things are developing this child. And as a parent, if you aren't teaching your children how to become better versions of themselves, better versions than you, then the system will teach them instead. And the system isn't just the school system. It can be any system out there, but somebody's going to program them.
Okay, but what if I'm, struggling to make ends meet, right? I have to go to work, and I can't homeschool my kids. What do I do?
Great question, bro.
And I asked this because I knew you'd say I don't know, because this system is designed to make people fail.
Exactly. So there's a lot of existential problems that stem even from the beginning, right? There's a reason I don't have children, right? The reason I don't have children is because I'm not in the area or the time of my life where I need them or I want them. So I've instilled a certain level of discipline in my life whereby I'm not going to have kids. And a lot of people make decisions in their life whereby they end up having children, and that's a big responsibility that they can't assume. So they end up neglecting the children in order to make ends meet, and that's just the nature of life. And I don't have the ultimate answer, but I will say that if you are in that situation, that you can still level up and you can still become a good parent with that interaction and still give your child the necessary support to become incredibly intelligent, and especially if you can teach them how to think, because if you can teach them how to think, then they can question the system and they can be inside of it but realize how much of a nonsensical thing it is. I have kids in high school that message me and they tell me all the time how they realize their professor said this or that and that it was stupid and it was bullshit and the reasoning for it. And of course, it's very just funny to read that these kids are, questioning things and they're using their heads and they're looking at things and they're like, that doesn't add up. That doesn't make sense. And that I think is a healthy thing to do at the minimum.
As do I. And to be fair, right? Like I went to a regular school.
So did I.
And you did too. And I just like sort of hearing your perspective on these things. Because I'm still forming opinions on a number of these topics, right? And I don't know if I'll have kids. I don't know if I do. I don't know where they'll go to school. But you are very, and Brett tells you the same thing. I know. I like asking you this question because you're very passionate about these subjects. And I can tell you've done a lot of introspection about how you want to manage the different facets of your life, which leads me to something. Remember when you were humming over there and I said it reminded me of what I wanted to ask you? What I want to ask you is this. What do you consume? Like, what music do you consume? Do you watch movies? Like, what are your inputs?
Nature.
No music?
Rarely. I like there's a playlist by the movie The Pianist.
Mm-hmm.
Fire soundtrack playlist. I have that on repeat almost every single day. Then just lo-fi chill stuff that puts me into a flow state. Nothing crazy. No bitches. Music.
No rap music.
I listen to rap music, but I'm very selective on the songs. I'm very selective on the messaging. I listen to the lyrics. I'm very aware of the words that are mentioned. And then there's some remixes and stuff like that, old school rap that I'll tap into sometimes, but super selective. Movies, rarely. I think I watched 2 movies in the last 2 years, and they were kind of intentional. We were in Dubai. We went to go watch the new Avatar movie, which was like a $2 billion budget. And this was after the Argentina World Cup win. So it's like ultimate ecstasy. What's going to be it? Well, you're going to go watch Avatar. So we book out the entire theater. And within 20 minutes, we're just like, we're out. Like, I don't want to see the blue characters out here running around, like whatever. And yeah, not a big movie guy either. Very introspective, love books, love reading, and love exploring on the internet, honestly. There's a lot of good information, a plethora of archives to dive deep into. And yeah, just focusing on leveling up my body as well, becoming intuitive with that, intuitive with the food that I consume, and just having a lot of self-conversations about what I want to become. And yeah, just enjoying the process.
He was playing Spanish guitar when I walked in.
So
can confirm. So, okay, so we've been talking for a while. Let me ask you this. If I'm a random person watches this video, right? Luke Belmar told me my inputs should be good literature, right? I need to eat well. I should stop watching all these bullshit movies. Maybe not listen to as much rap music. What are like some tangible inputs, right, that I can go find right now that regular people have access to? Because you're on a journey, brother.
So super basic right now. 1, go get spring water. Don't drink Dasani purified water. It's going to fuck you up. Number 1, right? This is super essential. 2, once you have a little bit of money, start eating super clean, super organic. Understand that the food that you consume has pesticides, has chemicals. You want to be eating nutritious whole foods, not processed foods, not garbage. You do not want to be using Teflon pans. They have forever chemicals. It's known to be extremely poisonous. So get a cast iron. It costs you $20. Buy the cast iron. If you have an air fryer, don't use a microwave. You're literally cooking your food. You're cooking, killing all the good stuff in there, all the vitamins, all the minerals, just completely killing the food. You're literally nuking it to just warm it up. So don't use the microwave, period. Don't drink sodas. Don't drink Gatorade. Don't drink any of this water, and sometimes organic coconut water, super good for electrolytes. Add some chlorophyll in there. Add some lime, some sea salt. Remineralize your water if you put it through a reverse osmosis system. I'm giving you the whole rundown here, my G. Neglect bullshit music. Neglect celebrities. Don't give a celebrities. They're just dirt peasants with fancy chains and fancy music videos. When you meet them in real life, they ain't that special. So don't have like this hero kind of perspective towards people, even ourselves. Understand that everybody is human, so that you don't have to be so harsh on yourself with false reality and false expectations of how the world works. Exercise, find good friends, good relationships, people that are positive and that have your best interest in mind and that are willing to support you on your journey, but also challenge you to level up. Never lie to yourself. Be honest on where you are, and know that at any time you can control the outcome of your life if you choose to. And I think that if people take these principles I've mentioned in the last 3 to 4 minutes, they're going to have a phenomenal 2023.
I like the action items. My last topic. And because it relates to what we've been talking about this whole time, and everything is related. How you feel, how you think is related to what you eat, is related to your inputs, what you consume. Increase the quality of the inputs. There has been in the last, I don't know, however many years, what the American media, or I suppose global media, labels as a mental health crisis, right? And as we sit here and talk about controlling how you feel, what you do, right? I'm curious to get your perspective on, not only why so much of the world feels this way, but how you think about mental health in general.
Do exactly what I mentioned in the previous 4 minutes. If you have mental health issues, do it for 30 days and then let me know if you feel better. That's it. The habits, the things that I've told you are designed to make you have a better life. For example, food, right? Did you know that there's a happy chemical that is produced in your gut? 95% of that chemical, it's called serotonin, is produced in your gut. If you have a healthy gut, you're going to have a healthy mind. You can program your body to be healthy by ingesting and having a healthy gut. The other 5% is generated in the brain. So what would I tell myself? If I want to produce happy chemical, I got to eat right. So do the things that I mentioned in the last 4 to 5 minutes. Test it for 30 days and then let me know if it's good or if it's not.
My G. It is true. And isn't it convenient how some of the most simple life principles are never mentioned to us? None of these are all things I've learned in the last 3 years independently. Gut health is connected to mind health. Habits are connected to how I feel. And if I can begin to establish my identity and understand who I am, I can become, I was about to say a better person, but I think you would tell me a man who lives by his principles. And
the best version of yourself.
I become closer to me. Luke, I appreciate you, G.
I appreciate you, bro. It's been a good session.
You spread wisdom as always. I hope at least this will be a very, very valuable experience for
It's going to be a very valuable experience. We're going to do it again. Hopefully you join us in Switzerland.